And Pop, what's going on? Welcome you guys to another watch party. It's on a Monday. It's Monday. We missed it last time, but in case you guys did forget, it's still the best damn day of the week. Every time it happens, you can have the day off. You can be in here with us as well, but it still remains the best damn day of the week. In case you guys forgot, that's how it works around here. Glad you guys are here. I got here super early. I was chomping at the bit. I was like, maybe I should just start early since I want to talk and I can't shut up. So why not just start talking? So I typed instead. But good to see you guys. All the normals in the building. Abby Normal showed up. So of course we had to wait on them. Also, Dragon, Shepherd, Squirrel Dragon, the usuals show up. I'm loving the dragons here. T-Bone as well. Grumpy Cat's now in the house. Glad you guys are here. We got lots happening. Always trying to figure out if I've over or under prepared, but the good news is I'm flying right into TDR right after this, and I'm gonna make sure. I promise this time, I'm gonna make sure that I don't talk over and then end up throwing off John's show completely, as I did last time, like 2 weeks ago. But then again, I usually tell you guys how many bad things are going on in the world before we start. But you know what? I think I need to shift our mindsets. This is now awareness. We're figuring out for the people who don't know it or see it or every aspect of this administration and this particular MAGA party's destruction of this country. Let's not see this as bad news. It is bad news, but let's see it as awareness and preparation to push back and fight. No rolling over and letting these assholes try and do what they think they can do. So if you're enjoying it, if you're seeing it, like, subscribe, share this stream. We'll throw all these back up on the watch list later. Find those as well. Like and subscribe to those too. You know what? Share them. Why not? Fuck it. Let's go ahead and get started, you guys. A lot happening, as I was pointing out. And I want to start with some videos that I think people have been seeing around, bouncing all over the place, but I want to put it in one particular thought process. I want you guys to see where we're going, why we're going that way, and also the people that are causing us to go that way, what their response is. It's almost like a standard here. Let's start here. CNN was talking to some folks in Tennessee about the plight of our economy and their real life world happening around them. And it didn't look all that good. Let's go.
Talked to more than a dozen people in downtown Morristown. Everyone was mad about prices.
Sometimes things is 4 times what they was a year ago. Roast I used to get for $12, $15, $35. It's awful.
Everything, just keeps going up.
Well, I used to spend $40 a week. Now it's 140 or something like that. I just don't think it's going to go down for a long time. They're not concerned with people like us.
They said these tariffs that they've got on, it's going to bring prices down. They're not, because it's going to have to charge more to make up for them having to pay to bring it in. And I just say everything's going downhill.
Did you vote for Trump this last time?
No, I didn't.
Talked to more than a dozen people.
It kind of doesn't matter whether or not you voted for Trump or not, this time, last time, or the third time. The whole situation here is that prices have gone up. People are talking about it. They can literally see it in their budget. They can see it in their grocery prices. Damn near triple. I'm sorry, definitely triple and damn near quadruple the prices that people were paying before. So, I mean, as we've seen these types of descriptions being given, many times the comments in these posts end up saying things like, hey, F-A-F-O, you voted for him, and now this is what's happening. The downside is that it's happening with all of us. And maybe we would have thought, as those folks talk about how some of them did vote for this president, maybe he would have cared about that. But we've gone from saying everything's going to be great to denying it to saying, wait a little bit longer. This is what Trump's response is to those folks.
Price of beef continues to rise and other items keep going up. Is there any way to address the cost of beef? Once it kicks in, once our policies kick in, the price of beef will be going down, just like the price of eggs went down and the price of a lot of other grocery items went down. Beef will go down. It'll all go down. Energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone really, I think you'll be hitting $2 very soon. And it was $4.50 a little while ago. So energy's gone way down. That brings everything else with it. But beef has gone, as you know, for other reasons. The price of beef has gone up a little bit. It'll be coming down. The price of beef.
It's alternative realities. So the price of beef has gone up a little bit, despite the fact that everyone's talking about it's doubled. All these prices are going to go down once things kick in. Well, the follow-up question shouldn't have been, let's move on to something else. It should be, so when is that supposed to happen? When the price of eggs drops, why did that happen? He doesn't have any answers to the whens, whys, hows, whats, none of it. He just goes on to the next thing to talk some more madness that has nothing to do with what it is that's happening. He has no idea. As a matter of fact, he doesn't care. The objective here is to make people suffer so that there's more stress, more strife, more desperation, that then they have to rely on this guy who's a fascist who wants to control your life. And if you have no options, he has more options to control your life. If he takes things from you, he's got control over you. That's that's how it works. In case you guys don't know that, but he did mention there gas prices have gone down. Remember, he said it were $1.99 and that everyone should be so happy. And then for some reason, people with red hats on said, yeah, despite the fact of what I'm seeing, you're absolutely right. It's not what I'm seeing. It's what you told me I'm seeing. Except this guy is not one of them.
Mr. Trump, Mr. President, help us out. It's been almost 6 months and you still ain't bringing gas prices down, Trump. Why? Why ain't you drilling? Drill, baby, drill. You know, it's $3 a gallon. Yeah, gas is $3 a gallon. Yes. Mr. Trump, I thought you were going to try to help us out. But promises you made, promises you're not keeping. Yes, Trump, please hear our cry. I've supported you 3 times. I voted 3 times in 3, 6, 9 years, Trump. Please, Mr. Trump, help us out. We need it. We cannot afford to pay $3. Gas is higher now than it was when Joe Biden was in office. Mr. President, come on, get it together. Help us out.
The mindset that this one guy, as president of the United States, can singularly just say gas prices are coming down, like he said he was going to do during the campaign, and folks who were thinking said that doesn't make any sense. He has to have policies in place. We have to talk about how these people who are gouging customers at the pump, how that's an aspect of it. But he needs to lift all regulations. He needs to just drill, baby, drill. So as long as you say the words drill and then throw baby in the middle of the 2 times that you say it, it changes everything. Policy means nothing. It's just saying a couple of few words and then suddenly things will change. One day, like at some point, people will have to look up and be like, he keeps saying things are $1.99, but like my reality, like my wallet keeps telling me it's $2.99 in front of me. This apparently down in the deep south, I think you mentioned at other points in this guy's videos, but the only place that prices are really high are in these blue cities and blue states, these metropolitan areas where these Democrats don't know what they're doing. At some point, you have to remember the guy is lying to you. And if he lied to you for the past 10 years, he's still lying to you now. And he plans on continuing to lie to you for another 3.5 years. I'm sorry, until he's dead. The guy is a liar. And everyone that's around him is also a liar, because you can't be around this guy unless you're lying. So I want you guys to take what we just saw, regular folks in Tennessee, regular folks down there at the gas stations, and all the plights and issues that they're going through, and talking about how they're realizing who it is that's affecting them and what the guy is actually saying in response of what he is doing. But really pay attention to who it is he's talking to. Here he is at no longer the Rose Garden. He's at the Rose parking lot that he made out of the Rose Garden, talking to elitists, talking to the elite oligarchs of the country, because that's who he's paying attention to. But look at the kinds of things he's paying attention to, though.
Happy about that, but I'm really happy when you see almost $17 trillion will be invested in this country over the next few months. Actually, we started from the happy about that, but I'm really happy when you see almost $17 trillion will be invested in this country over the next few months.
Next few months. Just wait on it. Remember, his policies have to kick in before prices come down. We're going to have $17 trillion invested in the next few months. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to go to Scott Bessent a little bit later as he's talking about when these things are supposed to happen. But you're supposed to keep waiting. How are you supposed to keep waiting when you run out of money? How are you supposed to keep waiting when your jobs are leaving? Because they're also telling us that that's not happening. But he's talking to rich guys. He's talking to Republican legislators who are standing there for the rich guy elitist dinner, for him to brag about $17 trillion coming in. Yet some people can't afford $2.99 a gallon of gas. it's like he's throwing it in your face. And if he was bringing in $17 trillion, and as I pointed out last week, that number switched from 4 trillion to 8 trillion to 17 trillion to hundreds of billions to who knows, because he doesn't expect you to really pay attention to it. He expects you to just do whatever it is he tells you to do while he's talking to the elitists at this dinner, because, you know, he's really cleared out that swamp. Maybe you guys have seen this, because as he's talking about $17 trillion of investments, here's some of these good red-blooded American patriot farmers. Let's let them tell you how things are going.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us. Harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about 1/3 of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs. And we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers. And they're critical.
When you've convinced enough people in this country that we're an isolated nation that doesn't need anyone else, and that we both create, produce, export, and import everything, and that everything in the world revolves around us, like this dumb fuck in the White House has told enough people that are in business, people that do this stuff. He said, we've been talking for months trying to get this straightened out. Have you heard any reports about them talking about for months trying to get this? Have you heard the president talking about how he's been in conversation with these farmers who now are saying their exports to China are at 0 and we are screwed and we're going to need some help? So are we going to wait for that bailout to come? Is that coming from the 17 trillion that he said he's taking in, which is bullshit? That 17 trillion that he said he's taking in, that then he's going to somehow cause some great golden era in this country. But the those red-blooded farmers, those guys that really tell you what's happening, they're suffering. And the ones that aren't suffering anymore, as you'll sadly see in this next clip, they're not suffering because they've decided to leave us.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of love. 5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think that tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We made a decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the 7th generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Okay, so all we need is a little bit of a swallowing of pride. Admit that you're wrong. Admit the folks that you were fooled by are still trying to fool you. Pay attention to the people who have all the accents that you thought were true American, only Americans in the country accents, and listen to them tell you how many of them, 25, 30%, multiple people. That one particular woman who sells equipment to farmers, 5 of them have committed suicide because they haven't been in these situations before. They haven't been in positions where the president is literally taking away their livelihoods and telling them that everything is great. Instead, while he paves over the rose garden and makes it a nice palatial palace for all of his rich elite friends to come. Did you guys know billionaires showed up that other day when RFK Jr. was testifying in front of the Senate, and he had them inside because it rained, but that was supposed to be the grand opening of his rose garden parking lot. When are we going to finally realize the people that told you they're all American and here comes all of these great things and that he's for you, that he's not? Don't wait for the next thing. Don't say, well, I mean, this time, I mean, but in 2 more weeks. I'm sorry, he said 3 more months. I'm sorry, he said 6 more months. I'm sorry, he said next year. At some point, you have to stop getting yanked around by your nose. He doesn't care. As a matter of fact, this is the plan. He thinks you're dumb enough to pay him long enough to run your ass into the ground. I want to show you guys more of what he was saying to these folks at this elitist dinner at the parking lot of the White House again. We're finding out what it is, where his priorities are. And I'm wondering if we're going to start listening. Here's more of it.
What we've done has been incredible. I'm so happy about that, but I'm really happy when you see almost $17 trillion will be invested in this country over the next few months. Actually, we started from the day we came in. November 5th was a big day. It was Liberation Day in a lot of different ways. It's a lot of different forms of liberation, but what we really have is something that I don't think any country has ever had. We're going to have over 17 trillion, and that number is going to go much higher than that, invested in our country, and is being invested right now as we speak. We have factories from all over the world coming in. We have car plants that were stolen from us. We had 40%, 47% of our car industry stolen from us over the last 40 years. And I think the number is actually much higher than that. They say 47. I think it's a lot higher. It's all coming back. The AI plants are massive. Some of them cost $50 billion. We're allowing them to build electricity with their plant. Nobody ever heard of that before. They're built, and if we didn't do that, they couldn't hook into the grid. We wouldn't have AI. We're substantially leading China. China knows it.
Isn't it weird? He's got all of these hundreds of $billions of investments coming from AI, coming from these folks who bought their way into influence and power in this country. And that's supposed to be a good thing. You know, I was hearing about in Louisiana, that's where they're now coming with more of these AI plants, and they're going to suck up more of the resources. They are leeches. These guys take things, make money off it, and tell you it's your fault for the situation that you're left in after they suck all resources away from you. It's supposed to, well, I think within the first 2 years of these new Google plants or wherever AI plants are coming down, that they're supposed to then have dried up all the resources in 2 years. And they move on to the next. And the uneducated folks that they've told, hey, look, I've got your back. They're like, look, this is great. They're coming to destroy us. You welcome in your destroyer. It's amazing, bro. But, you know, that's how overconfident and empty promises end up destroying a country that has all these lofty ideas about ourselves that don't match up to reality. So as I pointed out, he's there talking about the $17 trillion. So if you keep hearing about and you're proud of $17 trillion and you're not getting any of it, also look at the way he's talking about the people who he's talking to and compare that to how much he's not talking to those farmers who are, dead.
Most of those people were here. You know, you're the first ones on this great place. We call it the Rose Garden Club. And it's a club for senators, for congresspeople, and for people in Washington, and frankly, people that can bring peace and success to our country. And you're invited as congressmen. Mostly we have congressmen and senators tonight. Again, you know why you're first? Because it rained last night. I had the high-tech guys we're going to hear, and they didn't want to have rain on top of their beautiful heads. We had the highest IQ last night in the history of the world, and we took them inside because 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted you to be number one, and you were. They could have endured the little rain, but I wanted you to be number one. And I would say I would match IQ tonight here with what we had last night, meaning IQ of common sense and survival. Okay, I think you have a higher IQ in certain ways, let me tell you. But we had a great group last night, and they're investing tens of billions. They're investing trillions of dollars. Some of the companies are investing literally trillions of dollars in this great country of ours.
It's the elitist club. It's the Rose Garden Club for congressmen, for senators, for some of the smartest IQ-loving people in the country. You know billionaires came in? Did you know that they're investing and they want nothing back for it? Did you know that billionaires in a capitalistic society come into and give a for-sale president as small amount of money as possible? Sometimes they give him gold statues and shit for him to say, you can have everything, as he doesn't have to give up anything because none of it is his. It's ours. He said, take it. You gave me money so that I can tell them to be afraid of the trans children while you go and take everything that they've got. And while you're doing that, I'm going to continue to just have these Rose Garden Club meetings. The highest IQ people that know. He pointed out, he said, for survival. They've got beautiful heads they don't want any rain to fall onto. At what point we finally go, oh my God, these are the bad guys. These are the guys that are killing you. Matter of fact, this is one of the ways that they're making sure that they kill you. Here's a headline from the Financial Times, and I didn't want to pay for the paywall to go by, so I'm going to tell you guys just what the headline was, and we'll get the details from another point in a minute. But the Financial Times pointed out that Americans face the biggest increase in healthcare costs in 15 years. Wow, crazy. These rising premiums are going to add pressure on households that are already feeling the pinch from the high price of goods. It's almost like it's constant. If it's not from the groceries, it's then from your health insurance, then your lack of care that you will no longer get, because whether it's private, whether it's public, which they're getting rid of course, is through with this bill, and whether or not it's work-based health insurance, all those premiums are going up because we live in this country where they called you a socialist, Maoists, and everything before, when you said, yo, maybe we shouldn't be giving all of our money away to the richest people in the world and the country and act like that's normal capitalism. It's unfettered, unregulated capitalism. And what happens is they never get full. So guess who pays more? The dude said it during the campaign. He told more of those elite folks in one of those smaller campaign rallies where people weren't wearing red hats. He goes, I'm going to give you guys tax breaks and you're going to love me. He wasn't talking to those guys with red hats on, standing in front of gas stations saying $2.99 a gallon, Mr. President. He wasn't talking to the farmers who have since killed themselves. And there's all this extra farm equipment that's being auctioned off now for a little to no cost for the normal amounts, because it's just sitting there because those farmers have killed themselves, or that they've decided to leave the business and no longer pass it down to the 5th and 6th generations of their sons and daughters because they can't afford it anymore. He's not talking to them. But just in case you are paying attention, talking about those investments, here's Scott Bessent. He's a billionaire.
The president said that these tariffs are going to spark a manufacturing renaissance, he called it. But since he announced them in April, the U.S. has actually lost 42,000 manufacturing jobs. Are these numbers proof that the tariffs are failing to produce the manufacturing jobs that President Trump promised?
Again, Kristen, it's been a couple of months, and with the manufacturing sector, as you know, we can't snap our fingers and have factories built. So what we are seeing is a record amount of investment intentions. We've seen a capex boom in the first half of the year, and I think that was actually held back. The One Big Beautiful Bill, which has full expensing for factories and equipment, was passed on July 4th. Many companies were holding back then. So we are going to see construction jobs and we're going to see manufacturing jobs.
We're going to see it. Who knows if you'll ever see it, but you're supposed to wait and see it. Did you guys hear what he said? We can't just snap our fingers and factories will be built here. We can't just snap our fingers and have all the things that we said we'd snap our fingers and have happen immediately. When smart people said, it's impossible to build huge factories in a day, and then Donald Trump said, watch, we're going to do it so fast it'll make your head spin. But now that your head is spinning, what they're saying is keep spinning your head for another 6 months. You know what? It'll come eventually. One day you're going to have all these manufacturing jobs, $17 trillion. It doesn't even make any sense. He's not brought in $17 trillion of investments. None of those trade deals have been signed, bro. They talked about it. And then other countries laughed at us as he went to Truth Social to tell the people with red hats that look what I just did. I did a great job. Aren't you proud of me? And then now they're still wondering what it is that's going to happen next for them. So by the way, since those manufacturing jobs aren't here, and we're, as you know, as Maria Bartiromo no longer wants to report, we're losing manufacturing jobs. This is more of Scott Bessent.
So, Mr. Secretary, you know, the economy did add nearly 500,000 manufacturing jobs under former President Biden. In this case, since April, again, you're actually losing manufacturing jobs. Is that problematic for your policy?
Well, a couple of things, Chris. We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision. Again, this would be the second downward revision, so I'm not sure what these people who collect the data have been doing. It's good. We need good data. Secondly, what we are seeing is the jobs that are being created are going to either native-born or legal Americans. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration, they went to illegal aliens.
Well, and I think that there would be a lot of debate over the fact that they went to illegal aliens, but let's
well,
keep
no,
moving.
no. That's the fact.
Okay, let's keep moving.
No, let's not keep moving on. Kristen Welker has to point out. First off, no, these aren't debatable. I mean, Mr. Secretary, I mean, it may be debatable as you're saying that all of those manufacturing jobs went to illegal aliens. It's not debatable. Stop giving them any kind of air to breathe on these lies. If it was all going to illegal aliens, it's weird how all those folks who had those jobs paid taxes and it's on the books. It's in our systems and those things can be verified. Folks who do work that's off the books because they don't have proper documentation aren't doing it on the books, as you can obviously and plainly see. So when people lose jobs, we can see the jobs actually lost. We see plants closing. We see manufacturing stopping. We're seeing money being dropped off and sent to other places. Listen, it's right there in front of you. And all he has to say is, no. It's not even debatable. It's the truth. Let's move on. Why are we moving on? You just lied. You just said everything that's going wrong is not because of why it's going on. So people are uninformed. Matter of fact, you're making sure that they have the wrong information. Why don't we continue to ask? Because you know what? She did ask him one more question. And I'm not sure how long she stood on this one.
You're quoting big companies, but the big company index, the S&P, is at a new high.
Hasbro says they're going to have to increase their prices. Goldman Sachs says 86% of the tariff revenue collected so far has been paid by American businesses and consumers. So just bottom line, Mr. Secretary, do you acknowledge that these tariffs are a tax on American consumers?
No, I don't.
Even though you have companies saying they are going to have to increase prices, and given the fact that 86% of these tariffs so far have been paid by Americans.
You're quoting Goldman Sachs. So
yes, Goldman Sachs, correct.
I made
Which I said, yeah.
I made a good career trading against Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
You're quoting.
No, not okay. Okay, you're right, Scott. You made a ton of money trading against Goldman Sachs. What the fuck does that have to do with this economic outlook right now when you're telling people to their face, you know those higher prices you're paying? They're not higher prices that you're paying. And she said, well, I mean, the people that are charging them higher prices are saying they're charging them higher prices because of the tariffs. I traded against those people. Talk about an elitist piece of shit. At what point will we finally stop listening to them? That went longer than I wanted it to. They fucking pissed me off. Just wondering. I'm just wondering. In case you guys just joined, yeah, we went through the economic half hour of this hour, and I'm further behind than I wanted to be because I wanted to move on to the Department of War because this guy is a soft ass. But I just want to welcome you guys in. If you guys are seeing and enjoying what we're doing, like the stream really quick. More people may see it at that point. Also share it. I think even more people will see it at that point as well too. But also as you guys engage and as we move on, let's jump to this next story. Donald Trump is disrespecting reporters that are asking him why he's posting what it is that he's posting. Let's start on this one.
It's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why
I
would
don't
the
go to
Department
war.
of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Donald Trump decided to disrespect a well-known and well-done reporter, Yamiche Alcindor, when she asked him, "Are you going to war with Chicago?" Be quiet, darling. Disrespectfully. So fuck you, Mr. President. You don't know what you're talking. I'm sorry. She's only asking him why he said he wants to go to war with Chicago, and he called it fake news. Except it's odd that the fake news is following his post from his Truth Social that has him with this cowboy hat on and Ray-Bans saying, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Why are they going to find out why it's called the Department of War if you're not declaring war on American city? It's weird how that works. But darling, you need to hush up and be quiet. That's why you're second rate. It's like the country is second rate now that this dictator's in the White House telling people who are asking him questions about what it is that he's doing after he told us what he's doing, that they're second rate and fake news. There's more. I mean, there's another reason that she asked him that.
Department of War. So we won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War, and I'd like to ask our Secretary of War to say a few words. Pete Hegseth. I think it's a much more appropriate name, especially in light of where the world is right now. We have the strongest military in the world. We have the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest manufacturers of equipment by far. There's nobody to even compete. And you see that with this and so many other things. The Patriots are the best. Every element of the military, we make the best by far. So, Pete, I'd like to ask you and maybe Dan, Department.
So is it still fake news, or is he changing the name of it to the Department of War? Because, you know, he's a peacetime president. Remember those other promises that he made? Oh, I'm going to get us out of all these wars. There's no more wars, except I'm going to rename the Department of Defense to the Department of War because that's too woke. You need to be asleep instead and follow me into wars, because we have to be rabid. We have to be vicious. As Pete Hegseth was saying the whole time before his confirmation, we need to have this lethality, he kept saying over and over again, because we have to be badasses, because we are screwing so many things up. At some point, people are going to figure it out and realize how vicious and savage we are and start fighting back. And before that happens, we have to be ready for it. Look, no, Pete Hegseth said that too.
Well, unfortunately, the weakness of the previous administration has driven Russia and China closer together. That was a terrible development of a lack of American leadership and a lack of American strength. And you saw it around the world, and it manifests in what we saw on TV last night. But that's why President Trump has charged us at the Defense Department to be prepared, to rebuild our military in historic ways, to restore the warrior ethos and reestablish deterrence, not because we seek conflict. We do not. And we've been clear about that with China or Russia or others, but because by being prepared, you prevent it. You ensure that the American people and the homeland are safe, and demonstrations of parades are fine, but they don't hopefully manifest in actually military conflict. So we know what they believe and what they're about. We also know how strong we are and the military advantages we have. They know that also. Well, unfortunately,
He's talking about military parades. Those things could lead to other conflicts. Those things hopefully don't go that direction. I guess we don't count the one that Donald Trump had on his birthday, his military parade, because he wants to be like dictators. Except that one was so damn weak. Let's not talk about that anymore. If we run any video of his weak ass creaky parade, then it's going to embarrass him too much. Let's go back to talking about how those other folks are doing what it is that he was hoping to pull off. But at the same time, remember, Joe Biden's weak foreign policy is what led Russia and China and North Korea together. Really? It's weird because Joe Biden, he left office after he lost at the end of last year, and this post is from like a week ago, and it's from this powerful ethos strength president who posted, "Looks like we've lost India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China. May they have a long, prosperous future together." President, he signed it. He made sure we knew who it was. President Donald J. Trump. It's weird how the weakness of the previous administration lost India and Russia and North Korea to China, but the strong president said, "Looks like we've lost them." It's almost like he admitted that he's a fucking loser. It's almost like it's not the only time he's pointed that out. In this longer post where he's talking about that military parade where they were showing off their military might, at the bottom end, he said, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." Why would you have to congratulate them and give some warmest regards if the previous administration lost them to the deepest and darkest China? He thinks that's tough guy talk, when in reality that's, "Oh, I lost" talk. And in order for me to fool the people who still follow me, I need to act like it's something that I'm prepared to deal with. Because every time someone brings up Vladimir Putin and every time he continues to keep bombing Ukraine and that war that Donald Trump said he was going to end in 24 hours, he keeps saying things like, "This is tougher than I thought." But I'm really good friends with Putin. Did you guys know that I'm really good friends with Putin? Except for the fact that Vladimir Putin showed up to China's military parade while you sat there on your sorry ass and watched creaky tanks roll by and an ununiformed marching happening because nobody wants to fight for you. And by the way, those National Guard troops that they sent into Washington, D.C., that they're now had armed and they're looking to occupy more cities, since we're talking about Chicago here, they're making sure that they don't even get paid the appropriate amount that they are supposed to get paid. They're even screwing over, those troops that they respect so much. And if they're injured or if they retire, all those vet benefits, they're taking those away too. It's almost like he's a complete con artist, but enough people are still listening. You know what? Someone asked him, since we've lost India and everyone and Russia to China, let's see if he can answer who he thinks is at fault for that.
Pete doesn't want any part of that question. Yes, please.
Mr. President, who do you blame for losing India to China? In your post earlier today in the morning, you did put that out.
I don't think we have. I've been very disappointed that India would be buying so much oil, as you know, from Russia. And I let them know that. We put a very big tariff on India, 50% tariff, very high tariff. I get along very well with Modi, as you know. He's great. He was here a couple of months ago. In fact, we went to the Rose Garden and the grass was so soaking wet. It was such a terrible place to have a news conference. I said, well, let's use a beautiful white stone emblematic of the White House, okay? And it's been very well received. But we had a news conference on the grass. That was my last news conference I had on the grass because everybody sunk in. You probably sunk in. Every reporter out there, they ruined their shoes. We made that change. It's been a really well-received change. Yeah, please go ahead.
The question was, whose fault do you think it is as she quotes his post about how we've lost India to deepest, darkest China. And his answer was that he put a 50% tariff on India. I mean, to give him credit, he answered the question at first. I'm the reason why. I slapped a 50% tariff on India. I claimed to have ended every war in the world. And they went, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we still following behind this idiot? Only dumb Americans do that. And then moved on to talk about the fact that he's a presentation president. You know, they stood on soggy grass. So now I have a white, pristine stone parking lot instead. And that's going to be great. Did you know that I'm friends with Vladimir Putin and Modi? Apparently not, because you just said you've lost them. He's a presentation president. That's why when asked for the actual answer, the answer was, it turned into, did you know how great it looked? It looked great here. It was wonderful. You know, people messed up their shoes when they had to stand on the grass. So we put a concrete block there instead, because there's nowhere else in this entire city, in DC, where I can have anything done. It has to be right here. And if the grass is soggy, let's spend a couple $100 million on repaving it over. Let's do that. So as he's presenting himself, the world is still laughing. Here's some state TV that's responding to this whole Department of War talk, and pay attention to what it is that he says at the bottom. You have to grab these captions here because, you know, it's in Russia.
Честные пацаны. Какая оборона? Какой Department of Defense? Department of War! И, кстати, несколько миллиардов будет стоить поменять всюду надписи, в том числе на стуле. Но это же так важно. И Трамп, конечно, молодец. Вот, ну, просто молодец. Мне прям нравится. Вот честные пацаны.
They just say it out loud. So for you guys who didn't see it or you know, aren't watching but listening, he's talking about how we've changed the name to the Department of War because that's so much better. And sarcastically says Trump's doing a great job because that change of the name will cost billions of dollars because they have to change everything, signages, everything, paperwork from buildings, everything. It's going to cost billions of dollars for a name change, for a presentation president. As real life things are happening across the world, as he's losing India and Kim Jong-un and Russia to China, he's spending billions of dollars of our money to change the name so he can say, did you know that we're the Department of War and that woke is calling it the Department of Defense? Did you know that? As you lose all influence and as you lose, as you said, people like Modi, who was my best friend. So this all started with Chicago. Let's go back to that because he disrespected Yamiche Alcindor, asking him why he's declaring war on Chicago. And because she's a black woman, he disrespected her and said and called her sweetheart or sweetie or darling and told her to be quiet. But when he's talking to people who are kissing his ass and asking him questions, the same questions, notice his change in tone. But it is still the same bullshit answer.
You've been talking a lot about Chicago, and there was no, Chicago's been talking a lot. So Chicago last week lost 9 people were killed and 28 people were shot. The week before it was 7 people were killed and 37 people were shot. The week before that it was the same kind of number. Chicago is a very dangerous place, and we have a governor that doesn't care about crime. I guess we could solve Chicago very quickly, but we're going to make a decision as to where we go over the next day or two. When you look at what happened to D.C. in a short period of time, honestly, it's amazing. Over a period of 12 days, in other words, on the 12th day, we had the crime just about solved. And right now, people are walking out. They're going out right now to restaurants all over D.C., whereas if you go back a year ago or 6 months ago, nobody was going out. Nobody. We did it in 12 days. Now it's better than it was in 12 days. I mean, here we are on a nice Sunday evening. If you'd like, it feels like Saturday, actually. If you like, you could go out and you could have dinner on me, but you wouldn't do that. But you could have dinner on me if you'd like.
Ask the same question. You're talking a lot about Chicago, but it ends with, you can have a great dinner on me. It's so great. We don't have to debunk that lie about DC and restaurants and reservations and how the city's on lockdown and that certain aspects of the neighborhood they're patrolling with military and armed police that have been federalized to be brutal to American citizens. Forget all that stuff. What he wants to talk about is how Chicago is talking about him. Is the coward starting to get scared of all of his war declarations? Is the Department of War getting cold feet before they go into an American city again? Because we've said before, they prepped this whole thing by running up into Los Angeles. One of those court rulings that I was talking about from a post that went up over the weekend is how he lost on that. All of these illegal moves that he's making and executive orders and these changes of names to the Department of War, all of that is for window dressing. He doesn't do anything. All he does is golf and have heart attacks. That's all he does. So he needs to keep making you think that he's strong and he's powerful. But what he did say was, Chicago is talking about me. I'm not talking about them. I guess he couldn't understand Tom Homan like most other folks can't either, because he was talking about this.
The governor of Illinois responded to President Trump's post. He wrote, quote, "The president of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city. This is not a joke. This is not normal. Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He's a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator," unquote. Is President Trump planning to go to war in Chicago?
Look, I think it's worth being taken out of context. If I said we're going to war with the criminal cartels. We're going to war with illegal aliens, public safety threats that rape children, that raped citizens, that committed armed robberies, that distribute narcotics that kill Americans. We're at war with the criminal cartels, and Governor Pritzker protects criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats every day in that state, along with Mayor Johnson. We proved that. The first week of the administration, I went to Chicago. I started an operation there. The first day, we arrested 9 sexual predators, most of them child rapists. We arrested 9 members of TDA. Several of those TDA members had a pistol, an illegal pistol with a switch on it, which makes that pistol fully automatic. We arrested 2 illegal aliens that had a homicide conviction. That was the first day in Chicago. So, President Trump and this administration, yeah, we're at war with the criminal cartels and those who want to murder and rape the American citizens.
Tom Homan says you're at war. So maybe ask people in, say, Beverly Hills, ask some folks in the rich areas of DC. If a guy says, "I'm coming to your neighborhood to start a war," but I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about all the crime that's around it that we keep making up and have no verifiable evidence behind. All the arrests that they made that we've seen was reported as a black hole of information. So we have no idea what arrests they've been making, except for all of the kidnappings that they've been carrying out with masked agents. He said, "You're going to war." Which one is it, bro? Are you going to war or are you getting scared? Because Tom Homan wants to go to war. And I think they're realizing that Chicago isn't going to put up with it to the same degree, because we're seeing their pattern. We're seeing their agenda. And the governor and also the mayor of Chicago have decided not to play that game. But they're protecting child. This is the most ironic part. They're protecting child sex traffickers. Speaking of protecting child sex traffickers, let's go into this last bill bit. Mike Johnson is protecting child sex traffickers because he's working for a president who's protecting child sex traffickers. This is what he said last week.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago. And he's not saying.
There were so many lies in that little 15, 20 seconds that Mike Johnson just said. He said he's not calling it a hoax. It's weird because I heard him calling it a hoax. In fact, I heard him calling it a hoax while survivors of Epstein were outside talking about how it's not a hoax. But Mike Johnson said, "I talked to the president. I talked to him. He just told me he thinks it's despicable. It's horrible. In fact, he was an FBI informant." That was like lie number 4 in the first 5 seconds. He was an FBI informant. That is until people said, "What?" And then the Washington Post then had to instead report this. Mike Johnson had to pull back on that assertion that Donald Trump was an FBI informant on the Epstein files. Quote, the speaker is reiterating what the victim's attorney said, which is that Donald Trump, who kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, was the only one more than a decade ago willing to help prosecutors expose Epstein for being a disgusting child predator. That's what that statement from Johnson's office then said in response, after people realized that, you know, Mike Johnson is a fucking liar. Here's more from that article. So during that event outside where the survivors were getting threatened and also intimidated by Donald Trump's flyover, Brad Edwards, an attorney who represents many of the victims, told reporters that Trump has done an about face on Epstein since 2009. Did Mike Johnson talk about that? Edwards said that when he spoke to Trump in 2009, Trump was friendly to the victim's plight and did not think that it was a hoax and was trying to help. I guess that was the informant part. And now it seems like all of a sudden somebody's in his ear and he's not, is what Edwards said. So I'm hoping he'll come back to where he was back in 2009, be on the side of victims and stand with us. That's somehow they think is the reason why Mike Johnson said that. Mike Johnson was just on a roll of lying because, you know, he's a liar. But when they quoted Brad Edwards, the attorney that was talking about how horrible this was, and at one point Donald Trump used to be on the side of trying to help us, just like he was on the side of trying to expose these files. That is, before then he was trying to cover up those files. What changed is the last question that's never asked. Here's more. The White House on Sunday insisted in a statement that Trump has always been committed to justice and transparency for the victims. Please. Here's more quotes from them. That's why the Trump administration is releasing thousands of pages of documents and complying with oversight requests. That's what the White House spokesperson said. Jackson, who's that spokesperson, alleged that Democrats ignored Epstein's victims for years and are now only interested in them as a way to attack President Trump. Conversely, now Donald Trump was interested in exposing the Epstein situation. That is, until he did an about face, and he's not interested in that anymore. I mean, you can say one way, I think we can say the other, considering the reasons why those people that you said were not interested in it before are now interested in it. That means there was people that were interested in it before that are no longer interested in it. And we can ask the question, why? As Mike Johnson lies about Donald Trump being an FBI informant. Here's Thomas Massey responding to Mike Johnson's lies.
He also suggested at one point this week, seemed to suggest that President Trump was an informant to the FBI about Jeffrey Epstein. Your reaction?
Well, they haven't been misled. And the speaker's point that the victim's safety is compromised or privacy is false, because when we asked the survivors at our event, did they support the legislation that Ro Khanna and I have introduced, they all said yes. Now, I don't know if the speaker misspoke when he said that Donald Trump was an informant. The lawyers for the victim said that Donald Trump had been helpful in 2009 in their case by giving them information, but being an informant implies some formal connection and ongoing relationship with the FBI. I don't know what that's all about. I think the speaker needs to clarify that. And if it's a hoax, why was Donald Trump an informant to a hoax?
It's almost like none of it makes any sense. Just to ask the simple questions based off of the lies that they just told. These are simple, elementary, 6-year-old lies that are being told. By the way, I hate the wording that they use for Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is a liar. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is a liar. Why does Thomas Massey have to say? I mean, I guess it seems he misspoke. Maybe he's trying to be cute or to give him some kind of leeway to continue to hang himself. But he just seems he misspoke. But George Stephanopoulos asked him in the question beforehand. It seems like he kind of corrected himself. He said, it seems like, Johnson, may have insinuated or said or pointed out or suggested that Donald Trump was an FBI informant. He said he was an informant. He didn't suggest, he didn't insinuate, he didn't blink twice. He said he was an informant. Why don't we say what the lie is? He already said the lie. You can repeat it. Mike Johnson lied and said Donald Trump was an FBI informant because they continue to get cornered on how he's covering up the Epstein file release. They've even talked about how they want to release grand jury evidence, which actually means nothing for finding out more about this. Instead, let's be nice to the fucking liars. Why? I gotta go do the damage report. I told myself I wasn't gonna yell today. I told myself that. I won't yell in the next hour and a half on John's show. You know what? Of course I will. I'm gonna see you guys in a minute. Appreciate you guys being here. It's the best damn day of the week. These stories are gonna be up later. Go find them on the page. We're gonna do it some more. Share those streams so we can get more people's eyes on the right way that we're doing these types of things, and probably the best way to even address these types of issues and what it is that we're really seeing. Because I'm really sick of people not pointing out what it is we're seeing in front of us. Some fascists in the White House and people who continue to enable them in every aspect, from the state-run TV to the people who are supposed to be the fake news who won't even say Mike Johnson is a liar.